Okay, so let's talk about graphing from scratch a quadratic function in standard form. So reminder, standard form looks like this, where h and k tell us our vertex, and this a, whether it's positive or negative, tells us whether our parabola opens up or down. So in number 2, we have this parabola, negative 2 x minus 1 squared plus 8. So the first question says to determine whether the graph of the parabola opens up or down. What do we think? Up or down? Definitely down because our a is negative. So it opens downward, and I'll give a reasoning. Our a was negative 2, which is a negative number. Okay, what's the vertex here? All right, so remember h, k. All right, we already have our negative here, so our h is 1 and our k is 8. So that's the vertex of our parabola. It's also helpful to figure out how wide it is to figure out our x-intercepts. So remember, how do we find x-intercepts? Well, we set y equal to 0 to do that. 0 is negative 2 x minus 1 squared plus 8. All right, and so we just have to solve for what x is going to be. All right, so you could FOIL this out and distribute, but it's easier if you just solve here. So I'm going to subtract the 8 from both sides. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, or negative 2. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Remember, square root of 4 is either positive or negative 2. All right, so what does this tell us? Well, where do we go from here? We actually need 2 separate equations. I'll put a little arrow here that says we need that negative 2 equals x minus 1, and we also need positive 2 equals x minus 1. All right, and so we solve. X is negative 1, and x is 3. So did we answer our question? Are x-intercepts just numbers? No, they're points on the graph. So don't forget, x and y intercepts are actually points. So we have the x value, negative 1. What's the y value? 0. It's what we set it to be. And then 3, 0. All right, so these are our x-intercepts. Now let's determine the y-intercept for our problem. So the way we do that, well, we set x equals 0 and solve for y. Okay, so it's simply just simplifying here. So what is this? Negative 2, negative 1 squared plus 8. We get y is 6. So our y-intercept, x is 0, y is 6. All right, so now we can use this information that we just found to sketch our function. All right, so I'm going to start with the vertex. We already know it's going to open down. Starting with the vertex, it's 1/8. Well, kind of doesn't quite fit on my graph, but it's this next point up. That's our 1/8. Okay. X-intercept, so where we cross the x-axis, crosses at -1, 0. Also at 3, 0. And where do we cross the y? Oh, sorry, I did the wrong point here for our vertex. Sorry about that. I'm just going to wipe that out. It's the point 1/8 over here. Sorry if that caused confusion. All right, and so then our y-intercept, so the thing that's on the y-axis, is 0, 6. And so now we can connect these dots and sketch our parabola, or our quadratic function. Goes down, and that goes down. Right. And this is f of x equals -2x minus 1 squared plus 8. Finally, what is the axis of symmetry? So remember, the axis of symmetry is just the vertical line that goes directly down the middle, so it's invisible, that's why I did a dotted line, down the middle of our parabola, and vertical lines are always x equals whatever x value. So this is at x value 1. That is the axis of symmetry, so we would say the axis of symmetry is the line x equals 1.